Okay, we're live now. So,
Yay!
yay! Here. You know
Right
what?
on
I'm
time.
tall. How about that?
There we go. Yep, that's better. That's even better.
Well, good morning, ladies. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm happy to be back with the lit bitches. I mean, like our first show
Ooh.
of 2022.
Right, right.
How are
Well,
y'all
I'm
feeling?
glad you're
I'm
here.
I'm great. I'm really glad that we're back again as
Mhm.
well. I have my tea.
Nice. I got my coffee in my Crate with Courage mug that I got from Montrez. So if she joins, she's gonna
Yes,
support the fam over here. Crate with Courage.
100%.
Well, I guess let's get started. We can start talking about how 2021. Well, let's introduce ourselves before we start talking about our goals. People are going to be like, "Who the fuck are these people?" Okay, because
Who are these
know,
bitches?
we posted across social, so we might get some people who haven't seen us before. So
Yeah.
let's just give a brief introduction. I'm Amanda, the author. Thank you for tuning in. This is Lit Bitches. It is a bi-monthly live panel where three indie authors talk about all things lit and literary. So this is my channel, but I'm so thankful to have two of my favorite ladies here. Ladies, will you introduce yourself?
I am Katrina Lewis. I am an indie fantasy romance author, adult romance, not YA.
I know that's right.
I like a little bit of spice. But yeah, no, super happy to be here, and I am excited for today's first episode.
Hi, my name is Kyla. I'm Cajun who writes on most of my platforms. I recently published my first book of poetry in 2021, and now I'm working on my fantasy novels with the hopes of publishing those soon. Fingers crossed.
Fingers and toes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in now or checking us out in the future. We're all indie authors and we're going to talk about, our process, our books, our work, our mistakes we've made, things we like to do, things that were successful, and also some industry tea because it wouldn't be a good show if we didn't talk a little bit about some drama. So
Right.
that's for later in the episode. But for now, let's talk about 2021. How was 2021 for y'all? Let me just keep drinking coffee because it's 9 here. So talk amongst yourselves while I caffeinate.
I have 2021 was a mixed bag for me. Like it
Mhm.
was amazing and at the same time just oof, you know, cuz like I said it was my publishing debut, but by
Mm-hmm.
the end of the year I was so burnt out and not even just from the like author and work aspect of it. It was just the year on a whole, basically 2020 2.0. It was just
Yeah.
yeah. So for me
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit of both good. mm, I don't want to say bad, but yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. It was like 2020 2.0. Like of course,
Mm-hmm.
like the earlier half, it was like super exciting because I published my first novel. So all that I was on like a rush of just like I'm an author finally. Um,
Yeah.
and
You
then just like
published it last week, right, Tis?
right last week, girl, it was just last week. not not really good. That was an inside joke. But like the later half, it definitely got rough. Um, you guys know, you ladies, I lost my aunt to gun violence. Um, and that was like really hard on my family. We're still going through that. I'm just trying to
Mm-hmm.
just keep each other close and keeping each other, sane through, the pandemic, losing, a super vital person of our family. But I am blessed to be here in 2022, still writing, still chugging along, and still happy to be, back here on the Lit Bitches panel because this is definitely like one of my favorite things that came out of 2021. Like this is
Yeah.
like
Me too.
Yeah. Same
Oh,
still
here.
makes me happy to be here today.
that's exciting. I love that. And I love y'all. 2021 for me was, yeah, up and down. I I moved to Santa Cruz. I published this book, the
Yes.
sequel to Larson Desperation, and also Girls of hold on, Girls of Might and Magic, this anthology.
Yes.
Ooh.
Um, and also started writing another book and started my YouTube channel. But then at the same time, I also had some mental health issues where,
Yeah.
I ended up taking a break. Part of why we took this hiatus is because I just mentally was not in a good place. I, I'm somebody who, I won't say struggles with anxiety, but I live with anxiety, and sometimes
Mhm.
we fight.
Right.
Um, I have therapy for the last 3 years because of it. So I had a moment of just wanting to give up on everything, like not life, but
Yeah.
all of my creative pursuits. I wanted to just stop because I was not in a good space. I was feeling like, what's the point? This nothing's working. I'm not successful and all that. And then I got to a better place, obviously, which is why we're back. And I'm ready for this year to be in a better space, mentally and also like creatively.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad, like, that's super honest. 'Cause I feel like we all have like those moments of like, why am I doing this? Like I'm feeling that now, just like writing the sequel to Heavy is the Head. Like, what did I get myself into? But girl, your creativity is a mother one. I ain't gonna. It's a little too early to curse, but yeah, no,
Not for you. It's noon.
you're right. It is new. But for the Cali folks, for the West Coast, it's early.
Yeah.
Not in my household. So it is a new year. We're only 8 days into this thing. So what are your goals? What are some of the things you want to accomplish?
Well, for me, I decided that this year I would definitely be more lenient and be more gentle with myself.
Yes.
Um, in terms of like I do have goals, but this year I'm just like my motto is still less goals and more vibes.
Mhm.
I'm just vibing over here and trying to not overwork myself. But
Right.
I also do want to keep working on my novel. I had told Amanda that I felt like I was gonna just kind of put Land of the Gods on the back burner for a while. But as of this week, I picked it up back, and I've just been plotting all over again and outlining and that kind of stuff. And I'm definitely hoping to dive a lot deeper into it and just into writing on a whole and just embrace it even more this year. So that's my vibe for this year.
Yeah,
I love that.
I
What
like
about
that.
you, Katrina?
I mean, working on this second book, Heavy is the Head, Kingdom Come, it's without pulling my hair out. It's going. I'm like planting my way through it. That hopefully I get to publish that later this year. If I keep writing, keep chugging along. I'm almost there, not quite. And then I'm writing a really like fun, spicy novella for Wattpad, so that's been really fun.
Mm.
It's
Love
called
bites, right?
Sleep. Yes, it's. I was just writing it before I joined this, so that's been really fun. Hopefully to publish that, start posting around like Valentine's Day for people to check that out. But yeah, no, after Love Bites is, I gotta hit the ground running with Heavy is the Head because it's 2022 now.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I am over here inviting people to our stream and whatnot. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. I'm
Yes, thank
streaming.
you.
Sorry, my computer. Um, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Kyla, is in terms of more vibes, but the goals I've set for myself are ones that I know I can finish. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not my goals aren't outlandish because I've been doing like a lot of shadow work. I've been doing a lot of
Yeah.
like manifestation and things like that this year and these last couple days. So for me, I'm kind of in a space of like I'm putting all of these things out into the universe that I want and then slowly working towards them. But mostly my goals are like just to publish a book I'm working on now,
Yeah.
publish the last book in my series, and then just keep being creative and, be consistently creative, like with
Yeah.
YouTube and TikTok and all of these other platforms. Um, and then of course I have like fun things I want to do, right? Like I like to try to bake new things. So
Hmm.
it's like I want to bake something I've never baked before. I want to get
Right.
another tattoo. I might dye my hair again. I don't know. Like,
I feel you on the tattoo part and
Yeah.
the dyeing your hair.
Y'all, I don't have any tattoos. I want to get a tattoo so bad, but I'm terrified of needles.
oh,
This is the
Terrified.
year. This is the
yeah,
year to get
But I
one.
do want to say that I really like what you just said about like staying constantly creative. Because I feel like as creatives, we kind of get stuck sometimes on like the business side, or I have to meet, this goal by this day, and I have to reach, X many followers. But I like that. That I'm going to try to incorporate that more into like even like with my projects, but heavy is the head too, and love by just to stay creative, like keep it fun, keep it light. But I feel like even like just for me, like when it becomes almost like work, it's not fun anymore. I'm just like I don't want to do this.
right.
Right. So
Yeah.
maybe like I'll change up the hair, right? Might get a little pink streak or something.
Oh, that'd be so cute. Yes, I love
Staying
that.
constantly creative. I like that. And then just vibes. I'm gonna take those two with me after this.
Well, it's also, I mean, it is hard. I don't think people, I got asked the other day, is it harder to write the first book or the second? And I want to hear y'all's opinion on, is it harder to write like the very first thing that you are going to write, like essentially pre-publishing
Hmm.
versus post-publishing, because that's essentially what it is. For me, I said that writing the first book was hard in that it was a new world. I was really trying to go, okay, I'm going to be consistent and like do this. But it was easier because there was no expectation.
Right.
Nobody had read my stuff before.
Hmm.
I was barely on social media. I had like 300 followers on Instagram and I posted once or twice a week
Hmm.
if I did. And so it was a lot easier. I didn't have anybody going, "Oh, I love your work," or "I didn't
I
like
need
this."
book
There were
two.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, there were no reviews. The second book, it was easier in that I had already established the world, so I wasn't really figuring anything out as I went along. It was
Right.
like going into a party I had been to before,
Right.
but then you get all those expectations. You
Hmm.
get the like internal judgment, the um is this going to be as good as it was before? I have to make sure this hits blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know how you feel about that. Like, are you finding that your second works are harder to do given that you've already put something out, or what do you think?
That second is harder. Well, no, it it depends. So like, Heavy is the Head is a sequel. Well, Heavy is the Head Kingdom Come is the sequel to Heavy is the Head Love and War. So I'm finding it extremely difficult dealing with like all those like the internal like battles with myself. Is it going to be as good as the first? Or people like it? Or I have to make sure the world building matches because I pantsed a lot of it, y'all. Just throwing it out there. Um, so yeah, no, I'm finding Heavy is the Head Kingdom Come a lot harder than Heavy is the Head Love and War. Because like you said, when I published the first book, it was like no expectation. It was my first book, so people were just like, yeah, we'll check it out. So the expectation of people liking it or not liking it was kind of like, okay, like I'm new.
Hmm.
Um, but in regards to like Love Bites, I'm finding that really easy to write because maybe those expectations of not trying to get the book right like I did the first one are there. Like I'm just writing it at this point. I'm just like, oh, this is good. It's flowing out of me better than I think Heavy is the Head Kingdom Come is. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it depends.
Yeah, that like my situation is a bit different because it's not me trying to come out with a sequel, which
Mhm.
I've seen like you guys and heard you guys' struggle, and it definitely sounds like there's a lot of pressure there.
Hmm.
Um, for me, when I before I published Crossroads, I feel like I was driven by like this strong desire to just finally be officially considered an author, like just to get across that goal post. And after that happened, and now with me trying to get into my fantasy novels, I'm faced with like a different kind of pressure, and it's not the pressure that's like driving me to like
Mm-hmm.
finish my stuff. It's more like, what if I'm not good? And I find myself doubting my work a lot
Hmm.
more. And I think we talked about this earlier in the week where I said that writing now, I've found that it's a lot different from when I was younger, and I
Yeah.
would just be creating these
Mhm.
fantasy worlds out of nothing without second guessing myself or anything. And
Yep.
I would just have like 30,000 words like that. And now I'm still struggling to get past like chapter 2, and you
Yeah.
know.
We were just talking about that. It makes me wonder, like, what happened? Like, because I literally went through that same thing. I used to like create note tomorrow, fill out
Hmm.
notebooks with like different things that I was thinking about, different stories. And then now it's like you said, I'm like, chapter two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's also, I think, the business aspect takes over
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
once you publish. I don't mean to say once you publish and that, like, for other authors watching out there, you should absolutely be promoting your work and stuff before
Right.
you publish. But it's slightly different after you publish because you've got, especially, and we're talking in the sense of being self-published authors, but, you know, having to go through finding the cover designer, doing, getting the layout, getting an editor, putting on an Amazon, having to figure that out, figuring out keywords, doing all this stuff. You have kind of like a, hopefully, sense for that after, and know that, okay, this is like, it forces you to recognize that what you're doing is a business too, and
Yeah.
it's not just writing. So then from then on, I think you do kind of think about it in a different way. At least, like, for me, it was like, okay, now I'm thinking about this not just as a creative, but
Right.
all of the things. I said in my recent video that I was like, when you're a self-published author, you're the CEO, you're the accountant, you're the HR person, you're the
Yeah.
talent, you're the hype man, you're the social media manager, you're the marketer, you're all of it. And, it's funny because somebody had posted like, oh, this is how a space with all the things that Amanda's saying I have to do when I'm like in being a self-published author. But it's true. It's
Yeah.
fun, but it's also like
It's a
you have
business.
to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally everything. Like I did not like going into like I knew like of course like yeah I gotta talk about my stuff and I gotta create posts, but you are marketing just as much as you are writing. Some days you are marketing more than you are writing. So
Hmm.
it's all that to say like when we discussed it, it was kind of like I like what you said when you said it's like being a creative and XYZ. So I guess that extra XYZ is what adds the pressure on and kind of sometimes stops the creative process.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
back to what you said earlier, just trying to stay constantly creative. I feel like as long as you keep that mantra and then just vibes, I'm pointing the wrong way. Wait, that way. Just vibes. I feel like that'll really help, a lot of writers and authors kind of get past those hard like moments to where like questioning, is this marketable? Is this going to sell? Is this going to hit? Just be creative. Just write the damn book. Just write it.
Hmm.
Just vibe with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also, and what do y'all think about this? It's, and this might just be the plotter in me, so I don't know. But I think it's also like having a schedule and figuring out what works for you, right? Because I know I can, at this point in my life, I can kind of figure out which days I'm going to feel more creative than not, just given all the things I have going on in the week. So
I'm trying to get
generally,
there. I'm sorry.
well, like, generally for me, Mondays, I don't like to be creative. I'm like, it's Monday, it's the first day of the week. I
Right.
worked, sucked because it was Monday. So usually I'll try to do that as my like businessy kind of day. And then I'll try to do one more day during the week that's like a businessy type day. And then, try to be creative the other days. What do you think?
That sounds good in theory. I know the way my Panther blood is set up. It
It's
just
not gonna work like
goes.
that. I feel like I might be a mix of both of you because especially recently since I got a new job, I kind of
Yay,
learned like
congratulations.
thank you. Exactly what you said, Amanda, that you know, on days that are kind of more businessy or for me just more busy, I'm just not gonna want to do anything at the end of the day. But like days like yesterday where I had a lot of free time, I actually found myself sitting at the table and
Yeah.
the words were just coming, you know. So I think that's something that I'm not fully there in being aware of what days work the best for me, but I'm on my way to
Yeah.
figuring that out, and it definitely is helping.
You'll get there. Not to be like in my old age, but also
Oh
in
my
my old
gosh.
age.
You are not old.
No, you're not at all. Stop.
I don't know, it makes me laugh. Saying like, in my old
Back in my day.
Right, back, back in my day.
yeah, my like I know that I'm not old. My niece who's 27. Yes, I have a 27-year-old niece. She talks to me like I'm old. And I'm
Oh, we're
just
like
like,
the same age.
I'm 6 years older than you.
Yeah, that's nothing.
You're like a sister to me. I'm not,
Yeah.
and I told her, I was like, your mother is 14 years older than me. That's the difference. That's an age difference that you can
Yeah.
talk to them and be like, can I get you anything? Not you. Come
Right.
on.
Though I will admit, my niece, she's 18. And she says words, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're gonna have to define these things for me. I don't, we don't say this no more. Like, I don't, what are you talking about?
Gen Z slang, or what is the next generation after Gen Z? I don't know.
I have
Gen
no idea.
Alpha.
Oh
Well,
God.
that's what they're
Alpha.
called, Gen
Yeah, Gen
Alpha.
yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
because it's starting to
Yeah.
over.
Wow.
Eh, all
Okay.
right.
Learn something new every day. I did not know that.
Good for them. They're 18. Let's you know, I'm not gonna be one of those people that's like ragging on the younger generations. Good for them. I'm still young. Don't make millennials feel like we're old.
We're not, and we still get so much hate. They're like, those millennials. I'm like, first of all, the oldest millennial, we like millennials, we're like in our 40s now. And I think the youngest is like 26, 27.
Hmm.
So stop. You're probably a millennial if you're talking about millennials.
True.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess to that point, like, when you are writing your books, like, who do you feel is your target audience? Because for me, it is Gen Z. That's why I'm hustling on these TikTok streets. But,
Yeah.
you know, who's your target audience?
For me, I
Me
think
because I like a little spice, my bad, Kyla.
it's okay.
Adults. So what is that like 21 and over, 25 and older?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way, but I know there's a genre called new adult, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's what my work would fall into. Definitely like 21, 22, and up.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between new adult and adult? Like Amanda, you've read Heavy is the Head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that new adult? Is that adult? I always struggle with that because I see that now more often, kind of like the new adult category versus the adult category.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Kyla's 23.
I'm 25. You just oh you met Kala from your book? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant me.
Okay, so from what I understand, new adult is we're talking 18 to like 30. And
Okay.
then adult is, 30 and over. I think all of our books fall into the new adult category. Um, well, Kyla, I'm assuming yours it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, because my characters in my series and in the book I'm writing now are like 21, 22,
Yeah.
23, the oldest. Um, and there's older people in the book, but the main people are generally in the early to mid 20s. And yeah, that's new adult because you're not quite a young adult, right? It's not like
Right.
you're in high school, but they're also not like necessarily
Right.
married with kids and a
Kids.
mortgage and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff.
So I should be saying it's new adult.
Hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know that. I'm like, yeah. I write adult. I write adult. No, I write new adult.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, we can kind of talk about this a little bit. We have a little bit of time. Is like the different categories of how to classify your book.
Hmm.
Young adult, new adult, adult, and then we all write fantasy, so then there's all of these different subgenres of
Yeah,
fantasy,
Yeah.
plenty of subgenres.
you know. Um, and this is actually interesting. I did have somebody comment on one of my YouTube videos saying that they were writing a type of story where it's like a multi-dimensional interdimension. Anyway,
Hmm.
it's not time traveling, but this person traveled from like our modern no magic type world into a world where there is magic.
Like a
And
portal
so,
fantasy.
right. Um, and so I was then wondering, she asked, would that be considered high or low fantasy?
Mm,
Which had me thinking
right.
because, the world that this person's traveling to, the way she explained it, seemed like it was very much giving The Witcher or Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So my instinct was to be like, well, whatever the fantasy world is kind
Right.
of what you should categorize it as. However, that doesn't take into account things like Harry Potter, not to bring up that, but that's kind of the example of like somebody
Right.
going from, our world
Yeah.
to magic, but that magic is still in our world.
Right.
So, and it is like a different kind of dimension. So I think that would be low fantasy. I think like portal fantasy is considered low fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially too, I think it also depends on whether you have like a hard or soft magic system. Like you said,
Hmm.
on like her fantastical elements, like are there people walking around with like goat heads and centaurs and who can like bend elements and stuff like that? Then I would be like, oh, that might be high fantasy. But if she's
Yeah.
Right.
just traveling through the portal and like she meets a couple of witches and a mage, and that might be a little bit lower.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's all confusing. Do you both have a solid idea of what, if your books are high fantasy or low fantasy, and then urban fantasy or whatever?
I'm I'm definitely high fantasy. Like I knew that from the start.
I think
Hmm.
my fantasy is more low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, girl, all my shit is low. My
Yeah.
shit is low, low fantasy.
Yeah.
It's
Mine
like
is low.
step above low rent fantasy because it's our world with just magic.
It's
Literally.
classified as contemporary fantasy, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
other category that it would come under.
Right. Con- Contemporary urban. I get why
Mhm.
some people don't want to use the urban classification,
Yeah.
but it's hard because I think most people, when they hear urban fantasy, understand what that means versus contemporary. So it's kind of about changing
Right.
what people recognize.
Yeah.
I usually will use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's been our fantasy talk. Authors, if you do have any questions, authors who are watching, if you have any questions about whether your book is high fantasy or low fantasy, let us know, or let us know if you're working on anything. Actually, we're interested to hear from y'all
Yes. We want to know.
and what it is you're working on. And while you're doing that, we're gonna move on to some drama. Y'all ready?
Mm.
This topic.
It's a really
Right.
interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, I think there's been in the last couple of years quite a bit of discussion in terms of representation, appropriation, writers, what responsibility do they have, and then who can write what. In terms of like white authors writing BIPOC people, you know, people who are abled writing differently abled, like all that stuff. So this topic addresses whether cishet straight people can write, you know, LGBTQ people. So I'm just going to read some of these tweets.
Hmm.
The original poster says, cis people writing bi and gay characters. Acceptable? Because my characters tend to tell me their sexuality and I can't really control it. Now, the person who wrote this does correct himself and says, I should have used the term straight, not cis, thanks to those who pointed it out. Now, just a brief kind of letting y'all know, cis means that you are the gender that you are assigned. You align with the gender that you were assigned at birth. That's what
Hmm.
cis means. It is not the same thing as being straight. I am a cis woman and I am bisexual. So, you
Right.
can also be, if you are trans and you do not align with the gender that you were assigned at birth, you can be trans and you can be straight, trans and queer, all that.
Right.
So I'm thankful that this person corrected themselves. She got a lot of responses, a lot of yes and no, and it depends on, if they're the main character or not, and be careful and all that. A lot of good advice in terms of hiring sensitivity readers and whatnot. But this is the one, there's always one.
There's always that one person.
Yeah. Now this is the part that got me. So I'm just gonna read these tweets. I'm not gonna name names. If you can probably find this on Twitter. But this one says, of course it's acceptable. Can single people write married people? Can women write men? Can humans write elves? Can adults write children? Yes, it is. End of discussion.
She walked a very dangerous line that I think she crossed.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go into the response before we talk about that and how problematic that is. So this response says, maybe you should be very in tune with what it's like to be in those communities, writing married couples as a single person, etc. It is very different from writing about and of the viewpoint of a marginalized group. I can tell immediately if a queer person was written by somebody cishet. There is no, yes, this is ours too, and we can write this, end of discussion with marginalized groups. You do a lot of research and hire a sensitivity reader afterwards who knows their stuff. This person, the person who had said end of discussion, replied and said, "Sorry, it's fiction. Do you want to write a unicorn? Do it. You want to write a man? Do it. You want to write assortments of sexualities? Do it. Yeah, that's the discussion." Um,
Wow.
you know, so obviously that sparked a lot of debate. There were a lot of people who commented on that, and I thought, I had this discussion with Chelsea Lockhart on her channel when we were doing streams, and we ended up like running into our sprinting time talking about this
Hmm.
because it's a very heavy topic. So I
Yeah.
wanted to get y'all's opinion on in terms of writing queer characters, but it extends beyond that, just marginalized groups in general. I
Yeah.
wanted to get y'all's opinion.
For, I like for me with the person who said like can single people write married people like that person, I feel like they kind of made it out to be a lot more like cut and dry and a lot more black and white than the situation is. Like
Hmm.
Hmm.
it's not that simple, you know. She just
Hmm.
kind of watered it down to
Yeah, she like trivialized
yeah,
it.
yeah, she trivialized it. Um I found a tweet in the thread that I really like found myself like going like okay, like I can see your point. And this person
Hmm.
said, there's a saying, write about us, don't write about being us. And then they said, so basically include everyone, but let us tell stories about our hardships or trials. Because for me, as someone who identifies as bisexual, um,
No, you didn't.
I, I, like, I when it comes to someone that is not bisexual writing a bisexual character, there's a lot of times when they end up turning that person into a stereotype. Hey, but they end up turning that person into a stereotype, or they end up writing a lot of the very stereotypes that are harmful to the bisexual community, like, oh, this person can't make up their mind, or that kind of stuff. So I
Right.
feel like if you're going to write a marginalized character, or a character that is not white or is not straight, then I feel like at least make the effort to do your research and get your research from the people that are in those communities.
Mhm.
But I also understand the argument where, like, you take it a step further, and why don't you just let those people tell their stories themselves.
Hmm.
So it's to me, it's not that black and white. Or, yeah.
I agree. It's not that black and white at all. And I think the line that she walked is extremely dangerous because we know like the history of this country and of the media, and different things like that, where a lot of the times our voices aren't the ones that are heard or aren't the ones that are speaking for ourselves. So for her to say, of course we can end the discussion,
Yeah.
and there are marginalized communities who are actually like suffering, and people are dying and can't get jobs, or like different things like that. For her to say that in that manner is kind of just like, that's not, the conversation is much deeper than that. um in the
Right.
sense of like, I agree with Kyla, like especially if you're writing about someone who's having a particular experience, you want to make sure like you're doing your research, one, two, that you do get those sensitivity readers who are diverse, who may have the background that you're referencing, to kind of take a look to make sure you aren't saying anything harmful. Because that's not to say like, because I'm a straight woman, straight cis woman, and BC is bisexual, and I was like, she's a bisexual woman. I'm gonna choose to write her as a bisexual woman, and I really was making sure that nothing I wrote came across of like how Kyla said, like the stereotypes of bisexual people can't make up their minds. They're greedy. They want it all. All that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so you walk a fine line. It's I'm a firm believer in like culture should be shared and experience should be shared, but you also want to make sure that you're representing those people the best way you can be, the best way they should be. And just by saying like, yeah, of course you can, like you're entitled to write about said experience and that you don't even have, um, like as if it doesn't even matter. It's
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, she definitely trivialized it.
Yeah. I mean, Katrina, I read your book. I loved
Yes.
it, obviously, but I will say like that I did like BC, and reading it, I read it through that lens of, okay, I'm a bisexual woman. How is this being portrayed? And I think that you did a great job
Thank
with
you.
portraying her. There was no like caricatureness. This
Mhm.
character felt very real and fully realized and full of rage, and I
Yeah.
loved it.
She's a favorite. A lot of people are like, the story should have been about BC. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I just It just felt like this quiet rage simmering beneath the surface, and I just
You
so
just
good,
ate it up.
so good. You ate. I think for me the question becomes, why do you feel that you're the one to tell the story?
Mhm.
That's number one. Number two, there's kind of to like that tweet you read, Kyla. There's a difference between writing like a fantasy story,
Right.
and let's say your main character is black and you're white, and it's not about their race. It's not about the trauma that they're experiencing because of their race. That's different. But if you're writing a story about a different community, and your story is focused on their trauma that they experience because of that thing that makes them different,
Right.
I don't think you should write those stories, number one. But if you do, I think it's important to hire a sensitivity reader. You should hire one anyway if
Yeah.
you are writing about other communities. But I think if you're wanting to write a story about trauma that people experience, why do you feel like you're the one to tell that story? You know? I think it's also not having that attitude of like, yes, writers should be able to do it in the discussion, because to me
Yeah.
that says that no matter what you write, it will not be treated delicately because
Yeah.
you feel entitled to do
Right.
it. And finally, can we talk about how obnoxious and offensive it is to compare writing about a marginalized group, specifically like Black
To
people or
married
queer
and single
people.
people.
No, to writing about elves and
Oh,
Elves
L,
and
yeah,
elves.
yeah,
mythical creatures. Like
Yeah.
that is what got me. I was like,
yeah,
right, being married and being single, those are like states of beings. You
yeah.
can choose to be married, you can choose to be single. Most
Can't
people
you? Yep. Mhm.
who are single know people who are married. I have been married themselves, had
Right.
parents who were married. Like you can easily write a marriage if you are
Right.
single. That's not
Right.
like nobody gives a shit. But it's very much not the same because nobody's like you being married is not going to get you pulled over. It's not going
Right.
to get you followed. It's not going to get you any of these things if you're married in a
Going to
straight
get you shot and
relationship. Let
killed.
me say that, right? Or a straight presenting relationship. So it just I hate that when people try to say like, yeah, you can write a unicorn, so of course you can write Black people. No,
Yeah. No, the two don't equate. No.
we exist. We're not unicorns. We're not mythical creatures.
The
Like,
disrespect in that alone. Yeah. Right.
right. So, if you're watching, we want to know your opinion. Go ahead and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your viewpoint on this, because it was just it's exhausting. This conversation, I think, comes up at least once a year. I've seen.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very cringy.
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, do you so when it comes to writing about somebody else's experience that isn't your own, or writing other characters, what do you like? How would you approach it? I'll say that.
For me, I would
Oh
definitely.
wait.
Wait, sorry. Were you saying something, Katrina? You
No, sorry.
froze.
I think I froze. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
you're good now.
yeah. For me, I think I would definitely make because um in the name of diversity, like I make an effort to make my stories diverse. Um, in addition to focusing a lot on black characters.
Mhm.
So in the event that I want to write about someone who is, let's say, a Muslim, I would do the effort to maybe connect with someone in that community, get to know
Mhm.
about, you know, who they are. So to kind of be faithful to the authenticity of the
Hmm.
character. Um, but that person just saying that it's not, they make it seem like it's not something that's up for discussion. Just
Mhm.
do what you want, and I don't agree with that at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is that's like part of the research, like reaching out to your community. Who do you know who may have, X, Y, Z background that you could reach out to make sure that you don't miss say anything or call something that you shouldn't have been calling it or anything like that. I don't it makes me like frustrated to think that we have conversations all the time about like diversity, racially and sexually. And it just feels like people make it out to be so hard. Like it's not hard. Do your research. You're doing
Hmm.
your research with every other character you have. Why are you making it such a feat to promote diversity in your story and do it well? Like it's not that hard. It's not to reach out to your network to see who you can talk to. It's not hard to open up a book and do a little bit of research. It's not hard to find someone who can be a sensitivity reader to say, hey, how do you think this is reading? How is it coming? Like these things are not hard. Like these are things
Right.
that you should be doing. So it just that part of the conversation it just is frustrating because it's like how many times are we gonna have to talk about these things? And I try to just be patient because I learned like not everyone is always on the same level you are. So sometimes some people may not know. Because there was a time
Right.
where I didn't know certain things. Um, so I try to be patient and I try to just be of course willing to be that voice if someone needs some information about black night care, like how do you wrap it, like different things like that. Um, but it's just, you
Right.
can do things anyway. So why is this? It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
This comment here too. People have to put aside their biases
Yeah.
first. I agree.
Hmm.
I guess just to let everybody know who is watching now or in the future, if you don't know what a sensitivity reader is, it's essentially somebody that is of the community that you are writing.
Hmm.
Generally, they're different than a beta reader. Generally, you pay this person to read the book, and you have them read the book and say, this is this character, they're this, and they give you notes on
Hmm.
how the treatment of this character or characters are. I think it's just as important to do your research as it is to listen. So if
Hmm.
you are like, you should be paying a sensitivity reader. Again, it's different than a beta reader. Usually, those are fellow writers. These two lovely ladies have been and will continue to be my beta readers. We beta read for each other.
Yes.
Um, and so generally, like if I'm writing something that I'm uncertain of, I will say, hey, can you take a look at this? Let me know. Or as I'm writing, I will ask,
Hmm. That's what
like,
you should be doing, right? These are
I,
like common sense things. Like I'm like, is this This is not common sense. No.
right. And so if your sensitivity reader gives you notes on how the treatment of a character and that it's not authentic or that it reads offensively, it's incumbent on you as a writer to listen to that and
Mhm.
not just assume that you know what
What's
you're talking about and
right?
that they're just being sensitive. We have a couple comments here. In addition to research and turning towards members of these communities, I think it's fundamentally also about treating all identities with
Yep.
compassion and empathy, even fictional characters. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Beautiful comment. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then teacher says, I treat characters like people first off. I think there's too much pressure to write a certain type of character instead of just making them people first. I
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Treat them like they're people,
They are people.
you
We're not
know?
writing caricatures. We're not writing stereotypes. You're writing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also be aware of like nuance. I would say this, and I think Kyla, you and I will agree on this, is like there's still a lot of stigma in the LGBTQ plus community for other subgroups in the community. Just because somebody is gay does not mean that they will read a story about a bisexual person
Mm.
and be able to properly give you notes, because there's still people who view bisexuality and pansexuality to a certain extent as you're just on the fence. You're
Yeah.
really gay or you're really lesbian, but you don't want to let go of like cishet society or
Yeah.
heteronormativity. And that's not true. I think there are some people who are questioning and then do ultimately end up realizing that they are fully gay or lesbian, but there are a lot of people who are firmly bisexual or pansexual. And so I think you also have to be mindful of the one person's experience in a group is not going to be the same. Like Kyla
Yeah.
is in Belize. She's not going to have the same experience as Katrina, who's in
Right.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
California. But we're all black women, but like
Yeah.
they're different experiences. So I can't give my book to Kyla going, okay, tell me, does this sound like black women in America? Because she might be like,
Right.
I
They're like,
don't
I
like
don't know.
I don't know.
All of there.
So it's important
Right.
also to be mindful of like who it is you're having read your book and
Yeah.
what you're asking them to do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do y'all think? Yeah.
Yeah. No group
Yeah.
is a monolith. Like, yeah. No.
Yeah.
You
To
said it
like
perfectly.
to an extent, you're gonna have overlap in experiences. Like in reading to Astera with Love, there were many things that I related to, even being a black person in the Caribbean. But
Hmm.
I do agree that someone who is, say, a lesbian won't have the same experiences as someone who is bisexual, or a lesbian won't have the same experiences as a gay male. So
Hmm.
I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
Or even down to like, clearly I'm not a gay male, but A gay black male may have a different experience than a gay white male. He may have a different experience than a gay Latinx male, So it's nuance is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't want to necessarily limit people from writing fiction. Stories need to be told. It's just
Yes.
about having being aware of the fact that stories in the past have done real harm to
Mm-hmm.
groups and intended or not, because sometimes people might not have meant it to be harmful, but it has. And
Right.
so if you are a writer now and you take seriously your desire to bring diverse voices to the fore and to help expose people who might not otherwise be exposed, in addition to reading books by those marginalized groups,
Mm-hmm.
supporting them. If you decide to throw your hat in the ring, make sure that you get sensitivity readers and listen to their feedback.
Yes.
You
And
know,
it's not scary, guys. It's not daunting. Just do it. Just create people. Like Tadra said, create people first. Reach out to those people in your community. I feel like there's this stigma with like writing diverse characters where people just feel like it's like this scary thing. Like, oh, I have to it's gonna be okay. Like just just do your research and it's gonna be all right.
exactly.
Right, sensitivity readers, take a breath. We're people too.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, we have hit, we're at 9:52 my time.
Mm,
So let's, I guess we can wrap this discussion up. Commenters, people watching, if you have any other comments on this, please let us know now. Um, I don't know exactly what this author is going to do in the future. I don't follow them, but I'm glad that this discussion happened. I'm glad
yeah,
people weighed in on it, and I think that, you know, probably later this year we'll have a discussion about,
so yeah,
something else.
yeah,
I give it like a month. There's gonna be some other discussion to be
yeah,
had, I'm sure.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. The next discussion I bet is going to be traditional published is better than
Uh-huh.
indie, that whole situation.
Oh my gosh, I think the Twitterverse would explode.
Definitely. That might break Twitter.
Yeah.
Mm,
Though, just to say, not to start a debate here, I've been reading that like indie publishing is like on the rise. Like people are like
Yeah, it is.
really
mm,
Yeah.
turning to indie publishing versus traditional. Just,
Yeah.
mm.
man, I mean,
Get,
I
yeah,
I
you doing
I
the damn thing.
and I even read that, it's thanks to the rise of indie publishing that some of the stories that are being published
Yep.
traditionally are
Hmm.
being, because the traditional publishers see like, oh shit, that's gonna make money, that people are
Right.
reading that. So
Hmm.
mm-hmm, yes. Yeah, Jenna Morassi, her recent video about why she continues or why she's staying indie,
Hmm.
I think it was pretty good, and I'm learning a little bit more about her and her journey. But she also said that about how, a lot more people, the publishing industry is changing, more people
Yeah.
are indie publishing, and hopefully this means that there won't be as much stigma, and people will not see indie as just that girl over there. It'll
Yeah.
be,
That
you
girl
know,
over there.
well, people will read it. Like, I've
yeah,
seen, even with Book Talk, like, you would think that there'd be a lot more indie books on Book Talk, but sadly,
Yeah.
it's
that's
still kind
true.
of the same, like 20 books
Yeah.
that people
Yes.
post about.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That is just I appreciated it when I first got there, then it just got frustrating because it's like there are more books than just these set of 20. Like there
Yeah.
are more, black female authors besides this set of two. Like
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, yeah. Book by book,
Well,
we are breaking down those barriers.
Yeah.
yes. Well, with our last 5 minutes, let's talk a little bit about what it is you're working on, what projects you have going on, and then we'll give our socials and let everybody. go back to their Saturday. Katrina, I know you have wedding stuff. You've got sister wedding
Yes.
planning to do today.
I got some wedding planning to do. Y'all, this wedding coming up in May. I needed to be here and just be over with so I could like buy character art. but um, but yeah, no, I'm working on some cool things. Love Bites again. That's on Wattpad. Working on Heavy is the Head Kingdom Come. What else am I working on? I have my book Heavy is the Head 11 War is going to be in Nerdy Book Box. It's on sale now. If you go to nerdybookbox.com, you can go there and check that out. That's really exciting. Um, what else? What else? What else? I don't want to forget anything. I think that's it for right now. But just a few things in the pipeline. Just trying to get my footing in 2022. Should I drop my handles now or should I wait?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm at Katrina Writes underscore on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Wattpad. So find me there. I got goodies all in my link tree. Two free short stories you can check out. And yeah, I hope you stick around with me and the lit bitches next time around. This is fun.
Yeah. What about you, Kyla?
I am fighting the good fight with Land of the Gods. I'm working on it, working on my characters while simultaneously pantsing the story. Um, for now, that's my main thing that I'm working on, but I'm definitely looking forward to like hopefully having other projects later in the year. Um, you can find me on Instagram at kgentlewrites, on TikTok as kgentlewrites. I am also on Twitter where I mostly tweet bullshit at Caribbean Blurred. You can follow me there. And yeah, I also like look forward to this year of just the vibes of
Yes.
2022 and looking forward to having more Lit Bitches episodes with you guys.
Yay! As for me, I am finishing up within the next 10 days. I will finish the rough draft of my book in the House of Transcendence. It is a
Yeah.
standalone from my series. Oh, series, here we go. Um, Once that's done, I'm going to take a writing break. As I
Hmm.
do, I'm going to have some donuts. I'm going to have some
Yes.
champagne when I finish. Um, I also will be publishing the third and final book in my series later this year. Still titled, still to come. It hasn't come to me yet, but it will, hopefully. Um, in addition to Lit Bitches, I also do some other videos here on my channel, Amanda the Author, where I offer writing tips, authoring tips, marketing tips, and I'm also going to be talking a bit about some like authory self-care stuff about imposter syndrome and how to handle the business aspect and the creative aspect as well. So please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, because if you do, you can then also catch our episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, and also if you are a lover of horror, if you like horror books, go ahead and check out Horror Ho Support Group on Instagram. Horror Ho spelled Heaux, because we're French and not French. We're a little. It sounded cool,
Yeah.
uh, and it's a book club. I can't talk. It's a book club, and just join it if you like horror books.
It's still really
And
early for you. It's okay.
it's still early. And if you want to follow me on other socials, it's Amanda the Author with two E's on Instagram and TikTok, and Amanda the Author with one E on Twitter, because Twitter has a character limit and it won't let me be great. But otherwise, um, I think that's it, everybody. I hope you
Yes.
have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining. And to people who view this in the future, thank you. And subscribe, follow, and we'll catch y'all later.
Yes. Thank you guys. Bye.
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 Bye.